everybody, welcome to Stockradar Stocks on the Move for another week. My name is Richard Lee and I manage the stockradar.com.au website. Today's date is the 10th of July 2025. Sorry for the bright light coming in there, I'm not quite up to getting the ladder, putting in the block out blinds yet, so I just have to look at my shiny scone today, but hopefully that won't detract too much from the content. Okay, copper. Copper's an interesting one and things are happening at the moment, but we want to really try and focus on the bigger picture today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about copper, where it's sitting, the commodity, and some of the stocks we might want to have a look at. Okay, so we're going to keep the focus tight this week on copper. It's been pretty quiet, but it's very important and it's very strategic. There is a battle going on out there and it interests me greatly at the moment, and it should be interesting for you because there's some good stocks here that we will move if copper moves. So firstly what we'll do is we'll go to the trend intensity ratings and have a look at those. Okay, so firstly the top 10 trend intensity ratings are Dow, Downer EDI, Hub, Metcash having a big jump. Newmont's come back a bit with gold, NWL, another one with Hub, which are making new highs. We'll have a look at those charts later on. Orica is doing very nicely there. You can see in the chart there, it's broken well above the sort of $18 level, and it's kicking on pretty well at the moment. And you can see some great volume following it there and great momentum. So this stock all of a sudden is taken off with a trend intensity rating of 10, and thus it rates in the top 10 stocks. We've also got Pro Medicus, which has broken higher, Sol, which is, keeps going, ALQ doing well, and BXP and Brambles doing well as well. Okay, so that's our top 10 for the moment. Stock pick update is up 1 to 48. Stock picks from 160 stocks. So not a lot of movement at the moment, but we've still got 40 to 48 nice stocks doing very well for us at the moment. Okay, so that's the ratings, the stock pick count. Portfolios are all full again. They're doing very nicely. Overseas markets, well, they're on the trajectory high. We're going to have a look at these indices in a second, but they're making new highs. So we are sort of wandering and worrying a lot about things going on in the world, but the indices are going high and looking very good. So let's have a look at them. Okay, the Dow. For start, it's knocking on the highs there. Actually hasn't broken the highs like the S&P and the Nasdaq, but it's sitting right there. We've seen some reasonably good volume pushing it up. It's above the average there. Momentum's okay. It's looking, it's still looking pretty interesting, and it's been a very strong rally since that low back in March this year. S&P's making new highs, continuing on well. No change there. Nasdaq also making new highs, just edging higher and higher all the time and doing very nicely and good volume, good momentum. So those are okay. Now look at our market, which has also just put its nose above the highs there. Came back a bit this week, but we haven't finished the week yet, so we'll see what happens. Momentum's quite positive from there because it's been a strong rally since those March lows. So it all looks fine to me, no problem there. Okay, now then we go to the commodities. Gold again, not a lot of change. It's still rallying. We've seen a couple of gold stocks peter off a little bit. Gold has sort of stalled a little bit, but the uptrend is still intact. Selling has appeared, it's sort of slowed down a little bit, but we're not too worried about it at the moment until we see further falls, break of the average, break of the trend line, whatever it might be, increased volume. But for the moment, still looks okay to me. This is the one that I love at the moment, copper, and we've talked about this for a while. Now, this is the US copper price, which will be a bit different, trading at a premium to the London price, of course, because of Mr. Trump and his tariffs. We'll talk a little bit about this later on copper. It's not as if the Americans can all of a sudden start producing copper because they don't have the ability to do that. So they're still going to have to import a lot of copper. And the tariffs, well, if they want to pay for those tariffs, it's up to them. But our stocks, strategic, the BHP area, have got foots in all sorts of pies in America, out of America. They sell a lot to Asia. There's a lot of things going on in this market. So the tariffs is probably a little bit of a furphy at the moment, not to worry about. But I'm focused on this chart here. We've been looking at this for a long time. It's now pushed higher. The week hasn't finished yet, so of course this can actually finish down again. So we'll wait and see what happens there. But it is interesting. It's done this. The momentum's been good. The volume's been quite flat here, so nothing really exciting on the volume front. So again, this is probably a bit of an excitable move, but generally the big picture is still good for copper, which is really what I want to focus on rather than what's happening right at the immediate moment, this excitement that's going on. So that's certainly worth watching. Keep that picture in your mind because it's a good picture, and it's been going on since back in 21. This whole pattern's been really developing. Okay, Brent crude, again, nothing really to add there. It's just going down as it always has, up, down a couple of weeks ago, but that's really not doing much there at all. Okay, so that's the overseas markets. Now we're going to go to our markets, and really what I'm going to do is just focus on copper today. That's my main interest at the moment. There's lots of other things going on, but this will be our little focus today. So the first one we're going to look at is BHP, which has a large copper interest. South America here, Olympic Dam expansion there. So it's ramping up copper. And I think it's a fairly astute business, BHP, and they look to the future. They don't respond or react to what's going on now. They see a great future in copper, as we all do. So this is why they're still ramping it up. Now, the price of BHP has come down a lot. Iron ore's had a lot to do with that. And copper, which has been fairly sort of stagnant for a while, hasn't made a new high for many, many years. So now we've got copper's come down to sort of that S1 area there, which is not looking too bad. It's a big support area, has supported the stock for a while, was a big resistance area but going back into the 19s and the 20s. But we've had this big resistance area which had failed. Now we've got a big downtrend playing, and now we come to a fairly interesting area for BHP. Do we start adding this to our super fund or not? Or do we start having a trade on here? So we've got a little double bottom here at this support area. If I just scrounge up this volume for you to give you a bit of a better look there. There was some heavy volume on the downside there, really ramping it down, but it didn't push it to new lows, which is good. We said a little bit of volume come in. If I just expand that up, a little bit of volume come in on this rally. Nothing really to get too excited about. The interest to me is at the moment there's a double bottom of support. That's my first stop when I'm looking for a reversal. Is there support happening, which is a good sign. Now we've got to try the upside. There's things like trend lines, moving averages to overcome. A lot of work to do yet. BHP is still rating a trend intensity rating of -8. So, it's really not on the radar at the moment. It could be shortly. It wouldn't take much to change the picture, but we'll just really have to wait and see. Okay, now the next one I want to look at is the other big stock, which is Rio. Similar thing, really. It's had a big trading range here for a while. It's struggled to break through that 135 area. It has now had a downtrend like BHP, pushing into this low here down around 102. It's got about three lows across there, which is fairly interesting, I guess. We've got a longer term uptrend line coming through here. This area could be an area of support. We saw some heavy volume pushing this down sharply, and again it's not made new lows again, which is probably a good sign, but really not a lot to say about the market wanting to go higher. So trend intensity rating is -7. It's still in a downtrend at the moment. We're watching Rio and copper because they are Rio and BHP because they are copper plays, and we'll certainly be interested if the copper commodity does start moving higher again and continuing its sort of this uptrend, the big flat top triangle pattern that we like, which is an overall bullish pattern. So I'm keeping an eye on these. Nothing really to say at this stage at the end. Maybe a little bit of support showing it's probably the best I can do for you at the moment. Okay, now we can go to one which is probably a bit more of a concentrated copper stock, which is Sandfire, and we've had a look at this for a while, and I think we actually hold this one at the moment. The interesting thing is it's broken to an old high here. We can see the old high way back here, which is broken through, which is a good sign. But we've now got three big tops here. Now, this is interesting because we've got some amazing volume here, and all these rallies here, we've got some good increases in volume, which has been very good, but the sellers have held this price back. And so it really is a battle going on here that I'm sort of wary of. Our trend intensity rating is still +8 from this last move higher. I'm impressed with the move this week. It did get sold off rapidly earlier in the week. It's now recovered a bit, which is good. So I'm quietly confident on Sandfire, but I'd really like to see it get through these highs decisively to really start moving higher. But this is really probably your really strong copper play here. Your clear focus on copper is Sandfire. So again, we've got the constructive patterns here. Volume momentum is in positive territory, so all the signs are still there. The trend intensity rating is +8, which is okay. So it's certainly worth keeping an eye on, just to go and work with your stops and keep yourself safe. Okay, so that's Sandfire. The next one is Evolution. Now, it has probably about 10% of its revenue coming from copper, which is not a lot. It's mainly a gold play, but I'm only interested because if copper and gold are going up, that's quite nice for Evolution. So it's actually fallen foul of our stop just recently. We've had a good run on this one since September last year. but it's now fallen foul of our stop, so we're neutral on here. It is falling again. Trend intensity rating is -3, so again, we're stepping aside a little bit at this one at the moment, and we're waiting and seeing what's going to happen there. So, but it is one of those stocks, if copper and gold do start moving, this one will be on the move again. It's now quite a big stock. I think it's almost a top 50 stock possibly. It's certainly be on the radar of the bigger institutions, that stock. Okay, so now we're going to go down to smaller ones. It's quite hard to find the pure play, so I'm just going to have a look at a couple of smaller stocks for you that may interest you. We'll go to one called Capstone Copper, which has probably got about a $1 billion market cap. Not huge by any means, but it is a copper play. It's actually looking fairly interesting to me. And we've had the big high here. We've found some support here. It's had a good rally since April this year. It's gone from 650 up to 930, which is quite a good rally. It's broken through this downtrend line and this moving average line. We're getting some reasonable volume starting to appear here. Okay, this high volume here was the last sell-off. Now we're starting to get the buys starting to appear, not a lot of selling. So this is looking quite interesting, but I really need to see it probably through R1 if I'm really going to be confident, because there's still a bit of work to do through here, a bit of congestion there for us to get through. So again, I'm really taking a longer term picture. I'm not saying go out and buy everything today. I'm just saying keep an eye on these stocks, because if copper does move, some of these things will probably move. So, but work to be done here. CSC, Capstone Copper needs to get through about 1170 before we're going to look at that one there. Momentum is still negative, and if it's climbing and volume's looking interesting, and it's now tending to move above the average. So things are turning slowly, but trend intensity rating is still -4. Okay, the next one down is Mac Copper, probably about a 0.7 billion market cap. Again, not huge, but not tiny either. And this one probably interests us a little bit more. We've had this, you can see the similar picture here of a downtrend, and we're now rallying since March, April. It's now broken the downtrend line, broken the average. We've had a sharp move up here a few weeks ago, and just a drift. Always what I want to see in an upward market is an impulse drift move, impulse drift. That's a sign of a bull market. We're also getting some volume on this market here, and so momentum is starting to move into neutral positive areas. So starting to swing around. Trend intensity rating is -3 on Mac Copper. Probably really want to see it through this $21, $22 area before we get too excited on that one there. Okay, the other one there, this is a lot smaller, this one, but it actually looks a lot more constructive to me. It's a little stock called Dr.Copper, and if we have a look at this here, its trend intensity is +7. Now, what have we got here? We've got a double bottom here. Now, a double bottom usually tells me this stock is going to rally to at least this area here, which is up around 7 cents. Okay, the low here is around about 2.5. So that's my first stop. What we've also got is we've now got a break of the downtrend, a break of the moving average, and I've actually also got a little trend reversal. Here's the peak here. We get a higher low, then we rally through this area here, which creates actual trend reversal. So I've got a small trend reversal on Dr.Copper. We've also got some very nice volume patterns following this one, and momentum is turning positive. So X now that it's completed a trend reversal, it now will have a trend intensity rating of +7. So that's sort of exciting to me a little bit. It's near a base here, a base of support. It is a smaller stock, so we've always got to be careful. I'm always wary of these. But we've got a base of support there below it, which minimises risk to a certain extent, and the upside looks like it's quite potential is quite good for a rally to R1, which is 7 cents or maybe even 9 cents, and there's more above there. But for the moment, we'll take it one step at a time. But it looks interesting, Dr.Copper. Okay, so this is a few copper stocks for you. It's hard to find them. The big ones, BHP and Rio, are not really responding to much at the moment. They're big long-term plays on copper, probably very good plays on copper. So that's where we stick with the copper and those stocks there. Okay, a couple of other stocks that I would just go for you previously. BlueScope Steel, looking at a couple of breakups here. BlueScope Steel is starting to move above that $24 area. We need to see it through about 25, 26. Trend intensity rating is +1, but it's looking quite good now. We've got it through this resistance area, or starting to get through there. Momentum's positive, volume's okay, a little bit mixed. So we'd probably really like to see a bit of volume if it did start to break through R1. But looking interesting, BlueScope, coming up on a few people's radar, I think. The Lottery Corp, well, we've talked about this stock for a long time. It's still yet to decisively break through, but it's also not pulling back these days. So I don't know what the price is today, but it finished at 537 yesterday, which wasn't too bad. I think the break point's around 532 or something like that. But we've got some reasonable volume here. Momentum's good. It's above the average, and we've got this flat bottomed flat top triangle pattern where the bullish buyers are a little bit stronger, but the sellers have been resolute for quite some time. We need to break that nexus. If we can break that nexus and these sellers turn to buyers, and we'll get that market imbalance, and we may well get a good push higher in the Lottery Corp. A little bit of yield there, but it's a relatively new stock, but in a business that lottery business, which is always a pretty solid business in times, good times and bad time. The other one, of course, is Sims Group. Going a little bit of a flavour with BlueScope in that metals market. It's starting to look to push through that area up above 1650. You can see up here is the next high is 22. We've had a reasonably good move up here. We get through here, creates a new high. We've got a little bit of volume coming through here, and momentum is quite good. So all in all, trend intensity rating is +1, and that will trigger a rating of +6 or 7 or 8 even if we can break through this R1 level there. So there's a few stocks for you that are looking to break higher. There's an awful lot more I'm looking on the radar, on Stockradar, so you can always go and have a look at the trading centre for those stocks. I've also had a review, every 6-month review of my stocks. As you know, I've dropped a lot of the REITs and the LICs and the property stocks, and I've included a few more stocks in there of interest for you, so you can go and have a look to the trading centre and have a look at some of what those new stocks are on the website. Okay, so the only other stocks I really would look at is I just noticed Net Wealth and Hub have also been doing pretty well. We've had a good run on Net Wealth. It's been very kind to us, but it's again making new highs again. And being very powerful here, good volume, good momentum, really kicking high price stock, but who cares? Trend intensity rating at +10 and looks like it wants to go higher. And the other one, Hub, which we've just recently covered, it's also making new highs. There we go. Also making new highs above its old high there of $82 and kicking higher sharply as well. But I like the patterns on these stocks. They've been very, very sought after for quite some time. Volumes have been good, and so that means there's good demand for these stocks. And then it's a new world of trading, a new world of platforms. So they're all doing very well. Found themselves a nice market niche, so worth following there. Okay, so that's the stocks I've got for you today. Again, copper's really the one I want to talk about to you. If we just go over a couple of slides here. Copper, well, what it is, copper is rumbling at the moment. The chart structure, we saw that it's constructive. This sharp breakup at the moment is probably a short-term thing, but longer term the picture looks quite good, so I'm quite constructive about the sharp pattern. Tariffs creates a lot of uncertainty, but in the end, step back, look at the bigger picture where BHP and Rio sit and where all their mines sit, where they're selling to, and the tariffs really won't have a huge effect if they come in. So I'm not too worried about that, and you can see the share price didn't react much either. So and we saw Samphire dump down, came straight back up again. So I'm not too worried about that at the moment. US can't immediately increase copper production all of a sudden. It'll take years for their manufacturers to start processing. China's a big processor, that's where a lot of it comes from. So that's not really going to change very quickly. So again, we've got to step back and take a look at the big picture of copper and not worry too much about this short-term stuff. And for Rio and BHP, again, they've got a huge US copper mine in Resolution. It's been a bit strangled by a lot of red tape and native titles and things like that, but you know, if it did come on board, it could be a huge producer of copper at some stage. So they've got Escondida, there's Resolution, there's Olympic Dam, there's lots of things going on in the copper market, and they're well placed if the copper price does start rising. Those stocks are very well placed to benefit from that. Okay, so which copper stocks? Well, was it going to be big stocks, BHP or Rio? Is it going to be the smaller stocks, Samphire down to the Keystones and the Mac Coppers, or total copper focus, well, which is Samphire? So it's really up to you how you want to play it, but some exposure there would look interesting at the moment as to because I think the whole picture looks pretty good for the moment. Okay, so that's my view on copper today, and what I think of that. The rest of the market's been pretty interesting. We're making new highs. Lots of our stocks are doing really well. There's lots of stuff for you to see on the trading centre for you. So that's about all I've got for you today. And still remembering, with divergent views and wildcards like Trump, I rest my case on the clarity and perspective of the price action. And we've got that big picture that we look at with copper, which really tells the story of what's been happening for quite some time and what's happening now. And there it is there. It's a big picture. New high lows, the price has increased, but we haven't had a new high in price for about 4 or 5 years, up around that $5 dollar mark. So the buyers are creeping high. We'll watch this one. We'll just keep an eye on it. Okay. So clarity of the price action is what protects me and what I rest my case on when there's all sorts of things going on around you. It gives you a good guide. But again, this chart has not finished the week yet and can change enormously. So we wait till the week's finished before we make any judgments. Okay. Okay, everybody, look, thanks very much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed my little review of copper. I'm not too sure what I'm going to bring to you next week, but it'll be exciting, I'm sure. But in the meantime, watch your trends, heed your stops, keep it simple, have fun, stay safe, and I will see you all again next week. Thanks a lot.